All right, next up we have Kydo talking about how do we better use tools to measure our large treasuries. So without further ado, let's welcome Kydo. Hi.
Hi, Karthik. Thank you for inviting me back again. It's great to be here, but it's going to be hard to be a speaker. Let me share my screen really quick. All right. Does this look good to you guys?
Everything is good.
All right, perfect. So today I'm talking about Treasury and then the general sustainability of DAOs, specifically from a Treasury standpoint. I know I'm talking at a hackathon, so I want to, in the end, inspire people to build different things. This is a talk I give in May before the crashes happen. So I hope, there's some updates here and then some lessons I've learned definitely along the way. And, some updates as in some project I've mentioned in the past have decided to cease their business and go elsewhere. So it could be some interesting things to look through their journeys and see how we can learn from there. All right, before I begin, I want to give a quick TLDR about myself, why I'm interested in this different work and why you should listen to me. So right now I work at Incentive Design, Llama, and Gitcoin, and my work encompasses, from governance, design, tokenomics to liquidity management. My goal is to, in the end, help DAOs to achieve their vision in this, very cyclical crypto market. And at Llama, we built economic infrastructure for DAOs. And, here are some projects we've worked in the past. Previously, when I first started in crypto, I was with Trader Joe's, which is a DEX on Avalanche. And I was there working on token incentive to help different projects liquidity. And Trader Joe started when I was like right here. So when I first joined, Trader Joe had around 50 million TVL. And when I left, we had about 1 billion TVL. And also in my free time, I started writing different design pieces on how do we think about different token incentives and how can we build sustainable business structures with tokens. And this, main interest of me basically sparked out my time at Trader Joe, where I saw numerous projects blow up overnight and then slowly die out very quickly because they didn't have a robust incentive structure or even a product. So I hope, through my time at Trader Joe, all the learning lessons I could share with you guys through this talk and think about how do we build different projects that can help DAO sustain further. And this is a design I did with FWB to help there with their liquidity design. So let's start with the goals, for the talk. So number one is I'll give you the nuts and bolts for, what is the protocol treasury and why, why should I build on top of it? I gave the talk last May. A lot of people have thought about it. It was great. I want more people to building on top of it, think about sustainable DAO development. Second thing is, what are the current solutions? Before you build anything, you want to look at what the other people are doing and how should we innovate on top of it. Lastly is, of course, what can you build? And in the end, I hope this is a fun and actionable talk. In the end, after hearing the talk, I hope there's some ideas flowing around. Feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. I'm always happy to talk to different folks and help you on your journey. So first, what is protocol treasury and what is the problem? Protocol treasury, by definition, is just assets owned by the protocol for future development. The common usage of treasury assets can be split into 3 different categories. This is my definition, from personal experience. Number 1 is grant programs. And the goal of grant program is to incentivize people to build on top of your own protocol. Because crypto by nature is open source and everyone can view it and becomes posable and build on top of each other, grant program is really important to build a strong developer ecosystem or even product suite around your core protocol. Second is ecosystem building. This is specifically talking about partnership with other protocols. This can be achieved through many levels, but the main one maybe we have experimented the most with is token swaps to try to align financial incentive to further or even deepen relationship between protocols. Lastly is very underlooked, which is budgets. I think the main use of Treasury nowadays is for budgeting. And budgeting by definition is to cover the cost of operations, salaries, marketing, events, and outreach for protocols to grow. And what is the problem here? So the opportunity space in protocol treasury is gigantic. Currently, there's $9.5 billion in protocol treasury, and it has increased more than 10x in the past 10 months. And very interesting enough, what we saw is that even though my last deck was May, which is almost 4 months ago, and there's a lot of fluctuation in prices, protocol treasury has not decreased that much. It stay around the 10 billion mark. And here's a list about all the different protocol tokens that Uniswap have, and you can see right here, Uniswap is 99% of its own native token, and they don't really have much Ethereum or even USD, which is sort of less volatile than Uniswap's native token. So when I first saw this, I thought, oh my God, these projects have so much money, and then they should be doing great. And then I realized most of these protocols are native token, and maybe native tokens are not the best thing because it's not liquid, it's hard to sell, and you introduce a lot of different weird incentives on managing your treasury. So I was thinking, is it only Uniswap, or is it a lot of different DAOs facing the same problem? As it turns out, it's definitely the same problem across many DAOs. So Uni has a larger treasury. UXD, which is a stablecoin protocol on Solana, also has this problem. They have $600 million of treasury, and 99.4% of them are in their native tokens. And same, even one of the most established DAOs, Maker, is also having the same problem where most of their treasury is made up of native tokens. And Lido, on the other hand, is probably the one that has the most Ethereum, or even just stable, stable assets in its treasury. And we can see 10% of it is in Ethereum, and another 1.6% is in staked ETH. And so I think the message here is quite clear, where we have a big problem. We have a big market in the protocol treasury space, but we have a big problem at the same time, where most of them are in native tokens. And this is another graph from Mango talking about how much they have, which is very interesting because not a lot of people know about Mango, but they actually have 50 million USDs in their treasury. So I talked about why native token is not the greatest thing. I want to dive a little bit deeper into it and talk about why high concentration of native token in protocol treasury has big problems. And there are two main big problems. And the first one is, crypto is a volatile market. So there can be sharp decreases in crypto treasury value. For example, these treasury values can decrease 50% or even 95% over 3-month period very, very fast. This is a graph of Uniswap, and we can see it decrease around 60% in the last 6 months. And second is why high concentration of native token is not great, is because for any protocol to achieve its vision, it needs to continue to grow. And this growth mostly comes from cash, but not native token. In a simplified example below, let's say, we can see, protocol treasury rewards people who drive the growth of the protocol, right? So treasury rewards people, and people drives growth because they build on top of it, where they do different outreach. But the people in the end have to, pay for their utilities, pay for their rents, pay for their food. So they have to trade with the market to get USDC or ETH, which is more liquid assets for them to offboard. And, a caveat on top of it, which you can think of as this third small point, which is, okay, yeah, this is an example. This is an example where if you want to sell 1% of Uniswap's treasury, it would cause the Uniswap price to decrease 40%, just to tell you how illiquid the market is for these native assets. And, it's very, very hard to convert them into cash and pay contributors. Lastly, it's probably, a small caveat building on top of the second point, which is the HODL versus sustainability dilemma. Because imagine you're a protocol, you're telling your friends and your family to join the community, to become a part of the DAO, and at the same time, let's HODL to the moon, a moonshot opportunity. But at the same time, you're like, oh, but we have to sell our treasury tokens for USDC, otherwise we can't function. So essentially, you're using your token holders as sort of a semi form of exit liquidity, which has by design very hard marketing and community management aspect to it. So, one question naturally arises, we have this huge amount of money inside different protocol treasury. Is there any way we can generate cash from it, right? Whether it's you can be selling tokens very directly, or is there any other way we can generate cash? So I would love to first, give the current potential solutions for protocol treasury. And the way I put potential, because some projects may not be live, or even they have not gained significant tractions. And I divided these, solutions into 3 categories based on its sort of difficulty of understanding. This categorization is not meant to be, which layer is better than the others, because many times a simpler solution just wins. However, I do believe that we're still in the searching phase, in which, we're trying to find more optimized solutions to handle protocol treasuries. And on the bottom are the low-hanging fruits. You can see that these solutions are already established and have been utilized by protocols quite extensively. In the middle are traditional finance solutions. These solutions borrow existing ideas from corporate finance, implement them into different ideas on chain. And lastly, on top of it are some sort of like crypto native solutions or innovative solutions, where these solutions are less utilized in the traditional world, but will bring promising ideas to the crypto world. And there's a lot of different names here. There's a lot of different projects. I can see some projects being blurred out in black and white. The only black and white logo I found for 0x protocol, they're still live, they're still doing well. But for Porter Finance and Fei Protocol, unfortunately, since the last time I made this slide, they have ceased their operation, and they have not moved forward as a DAO and decided to stop working on their respective products. However, I think there's a lot of interesting ideas in this slide. So I'm going to do a quick rapid fire of different ideas people have been thinking about. How do we diversify our treasury? The way I want to describe different designs is through what is the past, how people are doing this problem in the past, what is the problem here, and how is this specific project going to help or trying to change on top of it. So Llama success token is a way to deal with the OTC that OTC deals that are buying at cheaper prices. So normally when protocols sell its treasury, one way they do it is through accredited investor or a fund sometimes, where the fund or the person buy treasury token at a lower valuation, but at a higher lockup. The problem with this design is that it's really hard to generate community buy-in, because people always feel like, quote unquote, they're going to be dumped on. So Llama is a way to align those incentives, where instead of buying at a lower price, you get more upside. So as the price increases, you get sort of this like linear bonus of more tokens where you can claim after a specific strike price. And I think this is a very interesting idea, and Llama, requires some data oracles, but normally it's not going to be a huge problem for the DAOs to handle. I think it's going to be a very interesting way to see their design to get more implemented in the DAO space for protocol treasury diversification. Second is a lock streaming auction. So in the past, token sales are always with a fixed price. So for example, the Lido DAO treasury diversification is a great example, where they sold a lump sum of Lido for a fixed amount of cash. The problem is generally very hard to agree on a token sell price for a community. And we can see it from the second proposal from Dragonfly, where there's a lot of discussions about like what is the correct terms and how should we think about different things. So lock is a way to essentially do continuous streaming auction where people can commit capital and withdraw unlock capitals at any time. The way is to find a market clearing price for a set of tokens during each epoch and to sort of achieve it in a way where where this mechanism can absorb different price volatility and form a long-term price stability for treasury diversification. Next one is Phase Turbo. Unfortunately, Faye has decided to stop building on top of the products, but the code base is still there. I think people can definitely still innovate on top of it and find different ways to work on this problem. So in the past, protocols can, you can't really collateralize your native token. So what I mean by collateralizing it is deposit your token into Aave or any of other money markets and borrow USD or USDC on top of it. And the reason why you can do that is that most protocols do not meet the risk parameters because, for any assets to be considered a collateral, it has to be vetted extensively by the Aave community to make sure, you don't introduce bad debt into the system. And what Faye achieves to do is to collateral against your own token, and you can earn interest on top of it through Turbo. So instead of borrowing USDC and use USDC whatever way you can only use USDC in different yield bearing asset standards. So for example, if your token value decreases too fast and you need to be you need to be liquidated, you can do it in a much more efficient way, where quote unquote you don't really get liquidated because the protocol controls your collateralized assets at the same time. Next is Ribbon's Treasury. So in the past, most protocols just do not have a diversification plan, right? What time shall we sell our tokens? How much we sell? That's going to be a very difficult discussion to have once you're in the bull market. But right now we're in a bear market, so it's much easier for us to agree on how should we diversify. And Ribbon's asset is just a covered call vault, which essentially in plain man's term is that we decide on when we're going to sell stuff. Let's say right now, let's say we're in the Uniswap fund, we're in the Uniswap DAO, and we think, okay, we should sell Uniswap when Uniswap 2x, and let's sell 1 million of Uniswap. Then that's essentially you can code that up in a Ribbon vault, and then sell this option to different people, and people can buy it as an option, as an option to get exposure to the upside, other than the 2x. Now, this is a very, very fast rapid fire. I hope you guys are still with me. There's the whole point of the rapid fire is to give you some ideas people are building and also show you how innovative people are thinking about how can we build different structures for financial aspect of things on the DAO Treasury. Although some projects are not specifically DAO focused, but a lot of it going to be used has been used very extensively for DAOs. For example, Ribbon, where I mentioned at the last, a lot of their customers actually are DAOs who are trying to generate yield on a passive manner. So now comes to the question, what can you build, right? There's a lot of ideas flowing around. I talked a lot about a lot of ideas. What can you build? So this is a graph, I showed before, when I was mentioning these, solutions, I mentioned, they're only potential. A lot of these tools are extremely, extremely hard for developers to understand, who does not, especially developers who does not have a strong finance background. And guess what? Most DAO developers are like that because, not everyone comes from a finance background. So the trade-off between, there's a lot of protocols have a lot of parameters you can tune, but it's very hard to visualize how those parameters can have impact on different things. And the second is, the adoption of these systems in protocol treasury is still very, very low. I think that could be a very key point where it's just very hard to talk to developers or even general community members on what does these things do, and then how can we visualize the effects of different parameters on the end result. So what can you build? I think the first thing is that it's important to decrease the trust assumptions for different interactions we have. When thinking about treasury diversification. And what I mean by this is, you can codify different agreements on chain. Sorry. So there are two very straightforward ideas that I have not seen a great implementation that has, a lot of tractions. So there are two kinds of contract I think would be, very suitable for this kind of idea to decrease trust assumption. So number one is token swap contract. So token swap essentially is a way for protocol to exchange their token treasuries with different protocols to build partnership. For example, Uniswap can exchange it with Aave, so they have a sort of like alliance because they hold each other's token. The second one is PIPE. That's a fancy way of saying a private entity wants to invest in a public entity, sort of like a Lido situation where a lot of different funds wants to buy a large chunk of Lido tokens through the open market. And you can do it, in a one-time thing, or you can do it in a streaming kind of way where, these different funds can put money in and out, and there will be very interesting, dynamic on top of it. And I think a lot of these are not, meant to be a product per se in the end for the end user, because many times the people who interact with these kind of contracts or products are going to be developers or very experienced investor who understand, these different contracts. So, for number one, I would say, a public repo would be the ideal solution for this. The second is to decrease the coordination friction. So basically, what I mean is basically toolkits to manage these, different contracts or different strategies. And this is what I meant when I was talking about, these solutions are really innovative, but really hard for people to understand. So how can you decrease the coordination friction between the people who are building the products and the people who will be using these innovative products in the future? Two very simple ways are, number one is simulators for payouts. As in, what if things change this much, what is our payment, what is our gain, what is, what we're missing out, can we justify we're missing out on that? And second is probably a very underrated thing, which is front ends. A lot of people interact with the blockchain through front ends. So it's really important for us to build easy to understand front ends to not only educate developers and also even maybe users on how do we understand these different tools. And lastly, I think it's to bring existing concepts into the crypto world. I think we're still very, very early in the stage of crypto speed running through history. So I think we're still trying to onboard different ideas we have tried in the world that has worked or has not worked. Maybe some didn't work in the real world. It's going to strive in the crypto world. I think AMM is a great example of that. So it's really important for all hackathon participants to think about different ideas that you've seen in your existing industry, that have worked or didn't work and want to experiment on top of the crypto world. Me personally, I think crypto is a great space to experiment with real financial value because the code is very public. There's trustless execution based on the Ethereum blockchain. So bring those concepts onto the crypto world and see what we can build. And that is the end of my talk. Thank you guys so much for hanging around. You can follow me as your Kydo on Twitter. My DM is always open for if any of you wants to chat about different ideas. But thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Kydo. This was actually very informative, even for me, because I learned a bunch of new things. One question, and we do have to move on to our next speaker because of a time constraint, but could you send us these slides? We'll make them public to the attendees and also publish them. So if you can get a copy of them, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, I definitely will. Definitely will.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and I hope to get you involved more in the future.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Hope to be back soon. Have a good one.
You too. Take care.